What's up, everybody? It's Eddie Trunk. Welcome to episode number 18 of That Rocks. Great to have you joining us today. And looks like we have a fourth host today, but we actually don't. It's our esteemed guest, and we're going to get to him in a second. But we are doing a little flip-flop this week and putting our guest in right at the top of the show, and then we'll end with our other nonsense after we let him go. But Jim Florentine, Don Jamieson, and of course, any metal fan in the world recognizes that man sitting right there, the one and only KK Downing. Good to see you, buddy.
Gentlemen, Jim, Don, Ed, great to see you. You all look great, and I'm really happy to be on the show.
Yeah, well, great to have you. And second album from KK's Priest is coming. It sounds unbelievable. Sinner Rides Again. When is the album actually out and available for everybody to get, Ken?
29th of this month, Ed, 29th. Yeah, but it's on pre-sale now and has been for a while. It's the way of the world with the pre-sales. But yeah, can't wait. It's just like this pregnancy, isn't it? You know, it's like can't wait for the baby to be delivered. So, you know, but the days are going by, not too long now.
Yeah, and it's all about the pre-sale too, because that helps with the first day sales, where the album charts and all that stuff. Yeah. So everyone watching, definitely get it on a pre-sale. Get it now, and then it'll all count to that first day, which will be awesome for you.
Hey, KK, have you ever made a record? Now, this is certainly not one of those records, and you don't need to say this if you don't want to. But in all the many records that you've made, have you ever made a record where deep down inside you're like, I don't know if this is the right record we should be putting out, and like on the eve of a new record, you're a little nervous about how people are going to feel?
No, because no, I've never been in that situation with it. Quite the opposite, really. I think everything that I've ever done, you're always, if anything, you're afraid of being too optimistic, and because you really like what you've done so much, so. If it doesn't go according to plan, it just leads to disappointment. But I can't help being like really enthusiastic and really thinking that I'm kind of hopefully getting it right and onto a good thing, really, because at the end of the day, I'm a fan, but sometimes us as musos, we can get too close to things, I could think of girlfriends, or I could say the same. You think this is so beautiful, but you're too close to it. And afterwards, you think, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? But no, I'm really, really happy with the record. I was really happy with the first record as well, Sons of the Sinner. I love that as well. And I think that these two albums could have been, back to back or a double album as far as I'm concerned. The second album's a little bit more edgy, I think, production-wise, a little bit more metalized, similar to what we did to Painkiller, from the previous records, but not too much, I think. That could, and we've been playing the songs from both records live on stage, and it's the same thing to me,
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of like the catalog, like before Turbo came out, were you like a little nervous because, there's the synth guitars going on? Are the Priest fans going to like this? That sort of thing.
No. We could say the same about probably Nostradamus, because it was more like a classical metal mix, but if you like something, you're just enthusiastic about it and just want it to come out. And the fans, if it doesn't go according to plan exactly, well, you just have to accept the fact that you did a little bit of a U-turn musically. But the thing is, you never really regret that, Ed, because, like I say, we as musicians, we have to, we like to be as versatile as we can, and just draw some satisfaction about what we do. Like the Nostradamus album, I just love it, and I'm looking forward to playing some songs from it, to be honest, But some albums, they have to stand the test of time. Like Painkiller, when that came out, it wasn't successful. People were going to go, KK, what are you talking about? It's one of the best metal, I mean, as the years went by, it just gained more accolades and it was more successful, but it wasn't really that successful as an album. And I thought then people think that we've done a bit of a U-turn, we've gone a little bit too extreme metal-wise, and maybe we did. I mean, because there certainly wasn't a ballad on the album, was there? It was pretty between the eyes. I mean, by comparison now, metal, I mean, there's a lot more heavier, faster, hard-hitting stuff about now, with the new metal that's come about since that album. But at the time, it was probably quite extreme, I suppose.
Yeah, it was. A lot of the fans did, but it was so welcome because that was what was happening at the time. Bands like Pantera were taking metal up a notch, and you guys were right there along with them. And I know you toured with a lot of those bands back then.
We did, and on the Painkiller tour, Megadeth, Testament, Annihilator, Pantera. We were taking all these bands out, and and at the same time we were watching this video for the song "The Painkiller," which was kind of, for a lot of people, I think probably a bit too much to swallow. I mean, because now when I look at that video now, in a lot of respects, it's still pretty much unsurpassed as a metal song and a metal video. It's like it's like it fries your brain and what it does to your eyes. I mean, it should have had a warning sticker all over. Careful, watch this video. You might never ever be able to focus ever again. But I love it. I mean, I think
that's kind of what Priest needed at that time, though. I mean, everything was what was right at that time. Whether it was Nostradamus, this expansive, very cool concept double record, I thought that was cool at the time, or whether it was Painkiller, really just putting that stake in the ground again, reminding everybody Priest are the one of the forebearers of metal. I mean, I think that's all important. KK, what would you say would be the biggest differences between the first album and the coming new album for KK's Priests? I mean, from what I heard, I agree with what you said, maybe a little bit of maybe even some of it a little bit in that Painkiller direction in terms of heaviness at certain times. But was there anything you were striving for on album number 2 versus 1?
Yes, absolutely. The exact story was when I was doing the first album, me, because I'm such a classic metal nut, you know what I mean? If I had to take albums to a desert island and that's all I had, it would be like, early Scorpions, UFO, Saxon, obviously Jimi Hendrix, I mean, Deep Purple. A lot of classic metal is in my brain. So when I was doing the first album, I was thinking, you know what, I don't care if people think some of these songs could be on like Stained Class, or British Steel, or any album. I wasn't really thinking anything else. I kind of like that kind of. I was thinking not to have the production overly saturated guitars and arena drums and stuff like that. It was kind of a little bit kind of authentic, classic kind of. Sort of sound and production. I liked that. But on the second album, I thought, you know what? Here's what I think now. I'm just going to ratchet it up and do exactly what we did, with the Painkiller edge, and just metalize it a little bit more, because I can do that because I've done it before, so I have the credentials to do it. And kind of that's where I was kind of thinking with the second album in respect of how it sounds in the production. So now I've got the best of kind of both worlds, depending what mood I'm in, but in respect of all the songs, I think if the first album had the same production as the second album, it would sound the same, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but this is all about evolving and moving on, isn't it? That has to be those kind of subtle changes, I think.
KK, I know that you did a bunch of shows over in Europe, and I see you're coming to the States for a Monster Rock Cruise that me, Don, and Eddie host every year. Are you going to do other shows in the States? I know a lot of fans here want to see you guys, too.
Absolutely. It's down to, obviously, the promoters. If we could get, we have been offered a good slot on a big festival in Mexico on the 2nd of December. But we don't have anything to go around that yet. We would like to do, if we could do dates before that show and then come back into the States and do more shows, then fine. If not, we would like to go out before the Monsters of Rock tour and tour the States, do that tour in Florida, and then carry on in the States and Canada as well. So we're open to, we're out there now. We've been obviously at headlining festivals, which has been nice, really nice to do in Europe, and we've got a lot of offers for festivals for next year in Europe as well. Some really nice offers for some festivals, but we would love to come to the States and do some touring, old-fashioned style, where you do like 6 or 7 weeks on the trot, and you're playing like 5 nights a week or maybe a bit more. That's what I would like to do. And take the show and take the band to the people, because it's so the done thing now, isn't it? People are meant to travel a long way now, and I have to do that. Even I have to get on the train and go and see Machine Head in Manchester because they're not playing Birmingham or Wolverhampton. I'm going, but that's okay because England's not so big as America. But in America, I can imagine some people traveling interstate to see bands, because they're not actually playing in their state, let alone their city or town. Do you remember in the old days, we used to go around America and play for months and, playing what they used to call the majors, and then we would go, or we'd take a week's break and then we'd go all the way again, and we would be playing Biloxi, Mississippi, and Little Rock, Arkansas, what they used to call the secondary markets. Yeah. So I don't know what's happened to that, because I thought that was a great idea. It was great for the bands. It's
great for people.
It's great to do LA and New York and Chicago and all of that, but it was also great to go to and play these really beautiful theaters and shows, and we did that with a lot of bands, including Iron Maiden, Whitesnake, and Def Leppard, Scorpions. We were all doing these secondary markets, and it was great, And I did meet a very nice girl from Abilene and Midland, Odessa. So you can have fun in the smaller towns as well as the big cities.
Yes, you can.
Absolutely. Hey, we haven't mentioned the singer of KK's Priest yet, and for people who don't know, it's former Judas Priest singer Tim Ripper Owens. In the time in between, Tim's spot in Priest and now, had you guys stayed in touch fairly regularly?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time Tim would come to the UK, I would go and see him. And AJ, my guitar player, we would always go and see him, whether it was with the Disciples of Dio or whether it was with Tim's own band that would come. The one fantastic gig that I saw, which not many people in the world have seen probably, was when Tim came over and did the whole of the Jugulator album from front to back. That was so awesome. I mean, Ripper's vocals, but like I say, I still say, as I said before, I think Tim's singing even better now than he ever has done in this band. I feel very blessed, very fortunate, and we all do, because we're on that stage and we're hearing him hitting these notes and these long notes. I mean, he did the longest note at the end of Victim Changes, I think, in Belgium at Alcatraz Festival. The longest note you ever heard in your life, and it's out there on YouTube somewhere. It's out there. It's beautiful, really.
Hey, KK, are you playing with KK's Priest? You're obviously, now you have 2 studio records of material when you play live to pull from, and obviously you want to play some of the classic Priest stuff as well. So you're going to have to obviously create a balance there. But also, I'm curious, with Ripper being in this band with you, are you doing any Priest stuff from either Jugulator or Demolition, the 2 studio records he made with Priest?
Yeah, we just did. We've only ever done 5 shows. We did a warm-up show here, which was fantastic at the Steel Mill. This holds about 2,500 people, maybe a little bit more. But then we just went and did festivals, and there were headline slots, which was great. Spain, Sweden, Belgium. And then we got a bonus gig. We heard the day before, can you please come to England and play Bloodstock Festival, because Halloween have pulled out, who were second on the bill to Megadeth. So we filled that slot, which was pretty cool, because that was a good paying show. Thank you very much. It was great.
That's always nice.
That was really good. So we just drove overnight from Belgium, went and did that show. But they were all festivals. So guys, I'm sure that you can understand this, that when I was putting a set list together for those festivals, festival audience, you have to consider that it's a 3-day festival, maybe more, and everybody's there to see Saxon, Powerwolf, or Accept, or whatever other bands. They're not there exclusively to see you. So I thought that I'll just put what I consider to be a good festival set list together. So it was a combination of, really. So yes, we did do a song from Jugulator, we did Burn in Hell, we did some classic songs that I wrote a million years ago, and also we did a load of stuff of KK Priest stuff. So it was a good cross section. But the exercise for me it was brilliant to see how it all gelled together, and it was just all came out, we all went in the pot and all came out like your favorite flavored milkshake. It was wonderful, and worked fantastically well. But obviously now we've got our own shows coming up. So to be honest, I could put stuff in there, from, I feel I could put stuff in there from rock and roll, or I could put stuff in there from Nostradamus. I think everything would go, you know what I mean? Stuff in there from, Demolition. I can do anything really, in the set list, because people essentially are paying the ticket for the headlining band, which is us.
Yeah, and you got a guy who can sing across all the eras of Judas Priest and obviously the stuff you're doing now. So that works out perfectly. You really don't have any limits to what you can do.
He could do it in his sleep because, but me, I'd have to go out there and practice very hard, and, relearning those songs. But that's a big treat for me, really,
That's something, KK, that's something that I don't think fans really pick up on, that even as a guitar player who has created or co-created all these songs and all these guitar parts in the history of Priest, that there's stuff that's, even though you did it 30, 40 years ago, it's challenging to relearn it and to play it now. And you know where I first realized that? About last year, Metallica played a show in Florida to celebrate the release of their first 2 albums and their original label, Megaforce, which I used to work for. So Metallica asked me to host this show, which I did. And I went to go watch them do their rehearsals to play the songs from the first 2 records. And I was laughing because they kept coming over to me at the side of the stage, shaking out their hands. And Lars was like, oh my God, what was I crazy as a kid trying to remember? They were putting tapes on, remembering old parts. So I think for us as fans, we live these songs and records and been part of our life. And we just assume, oh, the musicians could just play those tomorrow, but it takes work, right?
It really, really does. I mean, some stuff comes back automatically, but some stuff you think, how the hell did I play that? You know, I mean, and you think to yourself, and the thing is, when you do learn it and you start dissecting it these days, and you think, you start to have more of appreciation for it, really, you know, because you think to yourself, how did I come up with that? You know, and some of it's really quite unusual, you know, and but luckily for me, a lot of stuff I did was solos were improvised. So now I just go out and improvise as well. You know, I mean, now if I go out there on stage, which I do, and play a couple of parts that solos that Glenn did, I just improvise them, you know, and I like that as well, you know. So I improvise my own, you know, stuff, but some of the set solos, they really catch you out. You think, did I really play that? You know, yeah, you do really have to dig deep sometimes to remember it, you know, and a lot of the chord stuff as well. And you're playing it, you think it sounds almost right, but I'm sure it's not quite how I did it, you know. But you have to keep working at it. Yeah, you do. It's true.
KK, what album do you think really broke you guys in the United States? Was it British Steel? I mean, I think all three of us saw that tour with Iron Maiden open. Was it Scream for Vengeance?
Definitely Screaming for Vengeance was the one, really, where we really felt like, we're rock stars. We weren't rock stars yesterday, but today we are, you know, because the simple reason, because you just experience what just every day you walk down the street and you walk past a shop and somebody's playing one of your songs, or a car drives by, you know, and it's just like that scene from the movie, and you see people rocking out to, you know, to another thing coming or something like that, you know, and almost you can't get away from it, and it's weird because that's happened to me with other bands. Do you remember The Darkness when they had their big album?
Yeah.
Permission to Land, yeah.
And he's doing all this stuff like, you know, I couldn't go anywhere, you know, because on a day off you go out there to Walmart or something, or you're going to a record, and on the televisions they're playing all the video. They're trying to sell televisions, but The Darkness are on there. That's it. You can't escape it. You know, I was really happy for them. But I actually experienced that with Judas Priest. You couldn't escape Judas Priest in America with that album. So we have to think to ourselves, fuck, I think we've made it, guys. You know, we're here at last.
That was the tour too, where the infamous Madison Square Garden thing, where this somehow the seats cushions got thrown on stage there.
Yeah, they did. Very memorable, much talked about. And I'm glad to see the images, the photographs on YouTube now. You can see some of them. They're out there on the internet, yeah. And happy days, happy times, good memories.
Hey, KK, I'm curious for you, starting this whole thing, KK's Priest, you know, even though you are universally known among metal fans for all the work that you've done, I've talked about this a lot. It's not, sure, you've got an advantage because there's a built-in audience of people who know who you are because of your history with Priest, but it's still tough and it's still a challenge to get the word out that you're doing something new. So what has this experience been like for you now, about to release your second record? And, you know, for years, I mean, for decades, your life was one band, Judas Priest. Starting something new like this, what's been the biggest challenges and maybe some of the biggest surprising things about trying to get this going?
The thing is, everything was great because the album, the writing came together really, really fast. Everything was done. And then COVID came down and just chopped our legs off, really. So I had to hang on and hang on and hang on. So we hung on, and but eventually decided to release the album, probably knowing that we wouldn't be able to tour with it, but we went ahead and did it anyway. And then the agent said, "You can forget it, lads. 2022, it's chock-a-block. People are away. All these gigs have got to be fulfilled. They've been pre-booked." And so I was like, well, so I just shut myself away again in Christmas 2021 and did the same thing again, really. Just put another album together. And my original plan was to release 2 albums in 1 year. That's what I wanted to do. And I was right on course for doing that, but then again, the COVID was still happening. So I'm thinking, take the pedal off the metal. And then what happened was this album was being finished ages ago and could have been released a lot earlier. But we decided to depart from Explorer One, who released the first record. And now we've signed with Napalm Records, which I'm really happy about. They're a great home for metal, as we know. So we have a new partnership there. And but even so, I'm still happy to release 2 albums in 2 years. But I remember way back in the 70s when we released Killing Machine and Stained Class, 2 albums in 1 year. And that's pretty unique. I don't know whether anybody's ever done that. I'm sure they probably have.
Oh, yeah. Back in the 70s, that was, Kiss put out 6 albums in 2 years or something like that. So,
no way.
Yeah. Back in the 70s, it was kind of common every 6 months to put a record out.
Kudos to them. But latter days, everybody started to release 1 record every 3 years, 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that kind of happened to us a little bit. But it's not the way I like to do things. I just like to get on with it and keep moving, So I'm really, really pleased. 2 albums in 2 years. I'll take it, wish it could have been quicker, but the schedules. But the main thing is now, uniquely, we've got 2 Virgin albums to go out there and tour with now and do a real good, take the music to the people.
You guys got anything else, or it's late there in England? We should let them go.
Yeah, I think we're good.
I'm going to get back down
this first that.
I'm going back down on the video set now because I've been an extra, and doing stuff. It's a load of fun to do, to actually participate, and play the part. The guy in Rick the Whirlwind, the video, that's me.
But you're making a video right now?
Yes.
For what
okay.
Song?
So,
for what song?
I've been doing that all day long for him 66.
Okay. So you're actually at a place where they're producing the video right now?
At his place. At the steel mill.
Oh, at the steel mill. Got you. Okay.
But the guys we just ordered food in and stuff like that. So I came up and had a chat with you guys. And so I'm just going to go back on the set and costume up and get going and do some stuff.
All right. Well, we'll let you go ahead and do that. It's always great to visit with you. Congrats on the record. It sounds phenomenal. I've had a chance to hear it, and it's killer. I'm still listening to it. I just got it, but we're just digging into it, and it just sounds so killer, man. It is, like you said, the word I would use for it is definitely metalized. It's great.
Excellent, guys. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure speaking to you, and please say hi to all the fans in the States and tell them a big thank you for being so patient. But we are planning to come over. We're going to be there, but we'll see you definitely on the Monsters of Rock cruise.
Yep.
It's going to be great. Absolute loads of fun, but we're going to definitely try and get there before. Tell all the promoters we're ready to go.
Great,
all
man.
Right,
Thanks.
KK. Thanks. Good to see you.
Thanks, KK.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
September 29th, the Sinner rides again. Get a pre-order right now. Get those sales up. I think this could be easily be in the top 5 metal records that day. I don't know if there's any other big records coming out that day, but I'm psyched for the guy, man. He seems real happy.
Yeah, and I told him on my podcast, I said, this is, we're all lifelong Judas Priest fans. To my ear, this is some of his best playing ever in his whole career on this album.
Yeah. For I really like what I heard from it, and to me, it kind of reminded me of like a Painkiller sort of vibe. Some of it, and Tim is just a machine. I mean, I mean, it's just amazing how great he can
McKine.
sing. So, yeah. So look, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, obviously the Priest thing's not going to work for him, and they don't want him back and all of that. And they're going to go on to do their thing. They've got great stuff coming up, new album, Power Trip, and all of that. And now we got this band. So, this could easily turn into one of those cases like where when Ozzy left Sabbath, you got addition by subtraction. You got a great solo project with Ozzy, and then you had Sabbath do those great records with Dio. So, I think that both bands are making really good music and doing great things. And I think that's obviously a win for fans of heavy music, especially classic heavy music, which is what those guys do. So looking forward to seeing them live, though, because that's where the bread is always buttered. So psyched to see that. And I think he mentioned the Darkness, who I think are also, if I'm not mistaken, on the cruise, right?
Yeah, they are.
So he said he can't get away from the Darkness. He's first ever Monsters of Rock cruise. He's going to get Justin Hawkins following him around. So that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So we kind of turned today's show upside down, obviously, because normally our guest is at the end of the show, but because of the time and KK being in England where it's late at night, we wanted to get him right on at the top. So let's go in reverse order now and going around the horn. Let's talk about some stuff from the past week. Don, I know you saw a couple shows. I think you saw Alice, right?
Yeah, Alice and Rob Zombie. I took the brutal drive from Jersey out.
How long did it take? Like 3.5 hours?
Took 3 hours, but well worth it, man. Once I got there, it was, how many ways can you say it's amazing what Alice can still do? It just, I don't know how many other ways I can express it other than to say, honestly, I think this is the best I've ever seen him. I think it's the best his voice has ever sounded. It's really phenomenal. He's not doing anything on this Freaks on Parade tour that he's doing with Rob from the new album Road. It's a greatest hit set from beginning to end. And then when he goes out and headlines, because I talked to Chuck and Glenn Sobel and Tommy and Ryan, and they've been rehearsing songs from the new Alice album to do when they go out and headline. But this thing with Zombie, they're playing 65 minutes, so it's Billion Dollar Babies, Ballad of Dwight Fry, Persian, Billion Dollar Babies, all that stuff. So, but phenomenal, and Rob again with all the bells and whistles, he sounded great. Didn't get to catch up with him, but those two together, you cannot go wrong.
Yeah, I had Alice on my radio show last week. We talked for about a half an hour, and he was in great spirits. And I said that to him. I'm like, how are you not only is he still at the top of his game for his own band, but this is a guy that puts out a record every couple of years. Hollywood Vampires, 2 different bands. I mean, it's amazing. And he said to me, he's like, look, he goes, if I'm up there and I'm not able to deliver and I can't do what people expect of me to be done, then I'll know it's time. He goes, but until that time, he goes, why stop? And he's 100% right. It's the only reason you should stop is when you feel you're going to show cracks. I had Steve Whiteman of Kix on my radio show a couple weeks ago. Their last ever show is this coming Sunday in Maryland. Yep. And he was super honest about it. He said, you know what? I see so many bands that stay too long at the party. He goes, I know that I'm struggling on some stuff as far as singing. And I don't want people walking out saying, oh, my God, man, remember when he was great? So he goes, I'm getting out before people start wondering why I'm still here. And I got so much respect for that. It's not even funny. So, but a guy like Alice, like I said on the air that day, you don't even, like Alice Cooper, you don't even talk like that. You don't even be like, well, when's he going to hang it up? Because he's still so great. And Zombie was at Rocklahoma a couple weeks ago that I hosted. I saw some of the show, not all of it. And I didn't get to talk to him, but his show looks like it's gotten even bigger. I think him and Alice, when they get together, must push each other because it's incredible what he's doing.
Yep.
Well, speaking of older bands, I saw ZZ Top and Lynyrd Skynyrd this past week.
And?
Phenomenal show. I guess each night they switch headlining. So when I saw it in Jersey, it was Skynyrd went on first, ZZ Top went on second. it was tough to follow Skinner because they got all those anthems. So the crowd definitely was more into Skinner than they were ZZ Top. But ZZ Top is, I mean, they got, you forget how many songs they have, just one after another. I forgot all about You Got Me Under Pressure. That's what they opened with. I'm like, fucking song's unbelievable. Yeah. And, obviously Dusty's, passed away, not in the band anymore. But I guess his roadie, I forget what his name, Elwood, I think his name
Francis.
is. Yeah, he's great, man. He almost looks like Dusty. Sings the song Dusty did. It's, they got the moves they do on stage and stuff, but they were great. I love watching them. Look, there's not a lot of action going on stage. Skinner's got like 11 people in the band, including the backup singers, but they were great too. ZZ Top was phenomenal too, but I think Skinner should have went on last. Just more energy and different. Everybody knows every word to every song with the Skinner stuff.
That's a great bill though. Those two bands together. I was out of town. I didn't get a chance to go to that, but I'm actually going to Nashville on Monday because Billy Gibbons is being honored by BMI, the music publishing company, and they're having a big celebration for him and his songs. And BMI asked me to come down and speak at this dinner awards event for Billy. So I'm going to be seeing him on Monday and really honored to be doing that in Nashville. So that's cool. Since I saw you guys last, I was in Vegas. I hosted a show this past Saturday with the Dead Daisies, the current lineup, like the 15th version of the band, which these days is Karabi back, Tishy back, Michael Devin new in on bass, Doug Aldridge remaining, and of course David Lowy. So there's actually 3 members at one point of Whitesnake in the current lineup of Dead Daisies: Michael Devin, Doug Aldridge, and Tishy. But I think I've had every person in that band on my show at all the different lineups, including the guy whose band it is, Dave Lowy, the guy that doesn't really have any history in music. And I'm pretty sure this was the only time I ever saw them play live. And I thought they were great. They were way heavier than I thought they were going to be live. And the place was packed. It was at Vamped, and it was great hosting that. And it was a fun show. Don, I know you actually went out and toured with them with when Glenn was in the band recently.
Yeah, August, September 2021. And I mean, all good dudes in that band. David Lowy, a lot of people know his backstory, a very wealthy guy who's able to put together a band of rock stars, but he's a real humble guy, man, really down to earth. He's a legit player, and it was a lot of fun. I joke with Karabi. I said, I'm keeping your seat on the plane warm in case you ever come back into the fold, and not thinking, after the second album, Glenn would jump out, and now Krabby's back in. And I saw some clips online, and he sounds killer, man. Sounds like he's singing the Glenn stuff great. And, obviously he's got a bunch of albums under his belt with those guys. But lots of fun to be around. We all know Doug really well. He's just a terrific dude. He was my gym partner at all the hotels. We'd work out together. So I'm glad to see it still going, man. They're a legit band, man. They really are. They got a ton of killer songs.
Yeah, and Tishy remains one of my favorite drummers on the planet. I could watch that guy in any band. Just amazing. Like you said, Doug's the longest tenured guy now outside of obviously Lowy, whose band it is. But Doug just always brings it, always great. They're phenomenal. They really are. I mean, I know that there's a narrative out there because it's a revolving door and everybody knows David Lowy and his situation, but this is a guy that really, look, if you're that wealthy, you don't need to be doing this. You're only doing this because you have a passion for it. So that's something that I think is really kind of cool. And he's very good to the guys in that band, and they have, they travel great and they stay in great places and they have great accommodations. So it's a nice gig if you can land it, and they're having fun. I know they got dates coming up in, they've got dates in Japan, and 2 dates in Japan, and then Europe. And they just put out a compilation record. It's funny, Don, you talk about the Glenn Hughes records and Karabi coming in to sing that. As soon as I saw John, I was like, how are you singing the Glenn stuff? And he's like, dude, Glenn stuff is up here. John's so funny. He goes, it's right here. He goes, I'm doing it, but I'm doing it my way. Okay. I would never expect anybody to go after what Glenn Hughes does vocally. But John, yeah, he made it his own. He did a fine job with it. Hey, before we get to our, because again, we're going in reverse order this week. So we're going to get to our top 6 Priest songs here in a second. But before we do, the other big news from the last week since we talked to you, which is, unfortunately, we all kind of predicted this and we said we better see him early, but Aerosmith's tour has already screeched to a halt after just 3 shows. They played Pittsburgh a few nights ago, and now they have suspended the tour for 30 days. Steven Tyler rupturing something with his vocal cords. So they don't resume again now till October 11th in Tampa. Hopefully they can go smooth sailing from there. It's obviously really concerning when you get a band at this age trying to go out there and tour as extensively as they are, even with a couple nights off between gigs. They're still obviously dealing with some stuff going on. So get well to Steven, and all those dates that are not going to happen, they've already announced the makeup dates. So now the farewell tour has gotten even pushed later because
there we go.
They tacked them on the end because of these shows being canceled. The other thing is, though, since they only play like once or twice a week, or I think at max 3 times a week, blowing out a month translates to only like 7 shows because they want, Tyler wants 2-3 days off between gigs. So we'll see how this all plays out. But I did talk to people who went already, and they raved about the show. They were changing the set list every night. Last show they did Bright Light Fright. I mean, crazy what they're working in. So cool. But let's hope they can resume and get back to it. Jim, you were talking about going to the very first show. Did you go?
No, I'm pissed because I knew something like this was going to happen. With these older bands, I always say I got to see them early on the tour. I'd always do that with Ozzy. I do that when Van Halen came along with David Lee Roth. Early on, these guys sound great. You never know later on in the tour. So I wanted to go, but they were like $600 to resale tickets. Yeah, and I was like, I'm not paying that. There's no way. But I knew something like this could have happened. I'm like, I'm not going to wait for them to go to, because they're playing in Newark in like November, then they're playing the Guard in like January. I was like, I'm going to want to see him early, but I didn't. So I've seen him a bunch of times. So
this might be the like Kiss, the end of the road tour, Jim. So you might have like 10 more opportunities to see him.
I don't know about with this one though, because
Steven Tyler, blew out a vocal cord or something like that. I don't think Paul Stanley's blowing. Well, I don't. Maybe.
Well, there's a recording going on there, so it doesn't matter if he blows out at least we know Steven Tyler's really singing, right? Look, Kiss's manager admitted he sings to a track. It ain't me saying it. His manager said it on video, on audio. So, that's the thing I love about Steven Tyler is at least he's actually singing, because if he's lip syncing, he could have just kept going and not canceled any shows, and they could have just ran the track. So kudos to all bands keeping it real. That's all that matters to me in my book. I'm not spending my money to go listen to a recording.
And Billy Gibbons, I don't know how old he is. He's probably 73, 74, up there by himself, no backup singers singing. I mean, Elwood would come in and sing some backup stuff, but no one else filling in anything, just his voice. It's funny when he talks in between songs, it's so deep and raspy, his voice. Like he's been singing forever. I love that band, man. They're so fucking good. That was Lemmy's favorite band, ZZ Top, too.
Yeah, I've gotten to know Billy really well in the last, 10 years or whatever, well enough to text and talk, and he's just a great guy, too. He's like the most unassuming guy. Like, he's super obviously iconic and recognizable, but he's like the most regular guy you could ever meet. And I'll tell you something really funny. Are you guys familiar with that massive store, those roadside stores through like Texas,
Buc-ee's, yeah.
So for people that don't know, there's this roadside, basically like a Quick Check or a 7-Eleven times 1,000, like massive, right? And they're only in Texas, I think, and they're called Buc-ee's.
Oklahoma too.
Yeah, but Billy Gibbons, a friend of mine showed me a video that he went into a Buc-ee's with Billy Gibbons, looking totally like Billy Gibbons. Like, I've said this to Billy, like if he shaved his beard, no one would ever know who he was. He'd have total anonymity. But he went in Buc-ee's with a million truckers and people walking around, completely in the garb, the beard, everything, walking around buying beef jerky or whatever, and nobody stopped him because everyone's like, look at that guy trying to look like Billy Gibbons. Because no one could believe that the real Billy Gibbons would actually go in a Buc-ee's and shop for beef jerky. Like, it was just the funniest thing I ever saw, but it was really him. And he wasn't bothered at all. He's going around getting a bag. I like this. He was like on a scavenger hunt. It's hysterical.
Wow.
Guy's great.
Plus there was like 19 truckers that were just in there that looked exactly the same as Billy Gibbons. So.
Right, exactly right. Yep.
But Buc-ee's is so big that you could have a Walmart inside of a Buc-ee's. They're unbelievable. I
saw my first one with our friend Chad Westmoreland. He was driving me, and I'm like, what is that place? Is that some sort of truck depot, or is that what is that? And he's like, oh, no, that's a place called Buc-ee's. I'm like, wait, we got to go in there. They have like 100 gas pumps out front. I'm like, what is this? It's crazy. So, all right, so let's do the Priest songs, right?
Yeah. Metal six pack.
Yeah, in honor of KK coming on, we're doing our metal six pack, our personal top favorite 6 Priest songs. I'm going to tell you, I was this all came down kind of late, so I turned my list in like really off the top of my head. But I thought maybe, okay, there's so many great Priest songs. If I got to narrow it to 6, maybe the first 6 that come to me will be, the way to do it. So, who starts, Don?
I'll start.
All right, go ahead.
My number 6 is "Running Wild," a track off the Hellbent for Leather or Killing Machine record, also on.
That's the band Running Wild.
Oh, Jesus, are you kidding me?
Joe, you're fired.
Oh, yeah,
It's a band called Running Wild. I was like, that looks like it could be Priest, but that ain't Priest.
I just looked quickly. I saw blonde hair. I'm like, oh, that must be KK. And then I was just talking. Yeah, that is.
KK filled out.
Yeah, a little bit.
Wow, that's a band called Running Wild. There's always something.
And at 1980, I mean, it released in 79 on Hellbent for Leather, so it's close to the 80.
No, it says 89.
Oh, 89, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Running Wild is my number 6.
Not the song, not the band.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, my number 6. And I was the same way. Like I just my list came together pretty quickly. I mean, I think there was maybe nine originally that came off the top of my head, and I whittled it to 6, so it wasn't too bad. The 6th slot was the toughest. I had Beyond the Realms of Death in there originally, but I ended up I had Delivering the Goods in there originally, but it ended up being Tyrant, particularly the Unleashed in the East version of that song. So that's my number 6.
All right. I just riffed off this like in 5 seconds. So my number 6 is the title song to the album. We just talked about KK about it, Painkiller. I mean, such a huge statement for Priest to come out with something that heavy, that relentless. Remember, they're coming off Turbo, they're coming off Ram It Down, they're coming off what weren't great records and really needed to reestablish being a metal band again. First album with Scott Travis, that opening drum part and double kick. Halford's vocals just ridiculous. I mean, it's Priest almost kind of delving into what was happening then in metal. The heavier, the more extreme, the faster. I mean, Priest is one of the inventors of metal, but this is them sort of, I think, taking a little influence from what was going on around them and doing their version of it. So the title track, Painkiller, at 6.
My number 5 is the opening track off of British Steel, Rapid Fire. Way to start a record, so heavy. My favorite Priest record. I wanted to ask KK about some stuff on here, but we didn't get to it. But Rapid Fire, just fucking phenomenal at number 5.
Yeah, I had that one in the top 9 also, but didn't make it for me. My number 5 is, Genocide. I mean, that 1-2 punch of Genocide into Tyrant off Unleashed in the East, like that's just seared. Those 2 songs back to back are just seared in my mind from that album. The studio versions of both of those songs are not great because that was what production was back then. But the live versions of both these songs are just, off the charts great. So that's my number 5, Genocide.
All right. My number 5 is an
Nice.
album track from Screaming for Vengeance, which you could have gone in a million directions on Screaming for Vengeance. Maybe my favorite Priest album. I could have went with anything. Electric Eye, Riding on the Wind,
Devil's Child.
Devil's Child, the title track. But I love Bloodstone, and I could have done all 6 from this record, but I just, again, off the top of my head, I went with Bloodstone, and that's my 5.
My number 4 is off the Scream for Vengeance record, Riding on the Wind.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
one, yeah.
That's the band Riding on the Wind.
No, I mean, yeah, anything. We'll get to Scream for Vengeance later, but yeah, phenomenal song, Riding on the Wind.
Yeah, that's a great one, man. My number 4 is The Sinner. We have KK on, who's obviously most connected in fans' minds to this song because of that solo in the middle of the tune that, yes, he always heavily improvised when they played it live. So, again, the live version of this is just outrageous. Rob's vocals, everything right on point. And I always like when they wrote songs about these mythical characters. So The Sinner is number 4 for me.
All right.
Go ahead, Ed.
I'm waiting for it to come up so I can remember what it is.
It might be Sinner.
It
It
is.
might be.
Oh,
It
okay.
is.
It's Sinner. Well, I knew it was on my list too. I thought it was I didn't remember where I put it. So I'm with Don. Sinner is an all-time Priest classic. For me, the Unleashed in the East version is the definitive version.
Mhm.
And yes, a big showcase for KK. All that whammy bar stuff that he does, that's like a huge, huge KK moment in the classic Priest shows. And yeah, you just think of on Unleashed in the East, Halford going, "The Sinner!" Just the best. So I love that one. Total epic classic at number 4.
My number 3 is the same song. So you can. That's great that we just leave that up there. Yeah, especially the live version of this.
You
Unleashed
sure
in
it's
the
not the
East version.
band Sinner?
There is one.
There is one.
There is a band. That's right. There is. No, yeah. So what can you say about it? You guys already said everything about it. So that's my number 3.
Yep. My number 3 is Free Wheel Burning'. My God, what a way to open an album. That song is just, the vocal in that on that track is just insane. I probably my favorite opening track on any Priest album, maybe other than my number 1, which we'll get to, but that's number 3 for me, Free Will Burning.
Yeah. So your number 1 is Turbo Lover, then I guess.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right.
Ed,
Whose is this? Me?
Yeah.
who, me?
So my
Or me?
I think it's me, Beetlejuice. Who, me? Beyond the Realms of Death. Obviously, again, beyond epic. I remember, I think it was Tony Iommi telling me that the secret to heaviness is to put lighter stuff in there so that when the heavy kicks in, it makes it feel all the heavier. And this song does exactly that. I mean, you listen to this song, you think it's a ballad. You're like, oh, that's a Priest ballad or whatever. And then it just, just that visual, which of those two banging out those riffs, man, so great. So Beyond the Realms of Death, which was in the Priest show, out of the Priest show. Sometimes they put it back in. To me, it's one of those ones that should never not be in the Priest show. That's my number 3.
My number 2 is going back to the British Steel record, Metal Gods. Phenomenal. I mean, the riff in this, and then Halford with the whip. I still do that when it comes. Why? I'm a child. I'm a grown man.
You know what that actually is?
I'm going with, what is that? It's not a whip?
Well, you know at the end where it sounds like there's a marching, like,
Yeah.
you know what that is?
No.
It's silverware.
Silverware. It's they recorded that at John Lennon's house studio, and they went in the kitchen and they got like a tray that held like the forks and metal forks and knives, and they just shook it in front of the microphone.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can still do the whip motion if you want, Jim.
Yeah.
Well, the whip might be a whip. Knowing Rob, it might have been a whip.
Probably.
I'm talking about the end during the marching.
Yeah. All right, my number 2 is the Sentinel, also off of Defenders of the Faith. That note he hits at the end, the hair on my arms, my ears, my back, and my nose, it all stands up on end when he's just screaming, born to avenge, condemned to hell. Like that end part is just so intense. So that's my number 2, the Sentinel.
All right. My number 2 is Metal Gods from British Steel. I'm with Jim. That riff is as classic as riffs get. Anytime they kick into that song, it's like the pre-show is on. It's just, it's almost like, obviously feel like it's kind of like autobiographical, Priest being the Metal Gods or whatever, but it's all about that riff. That riff is just, even just like, the chorus and then down, 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 down. It's so Priest. It's so metal. Metal Gods, my number 2 Priest song.
Remember we hosted the 30th anniversary.
Oh, how could I ever forget?
Down in Florida at the Hard Rock.
Yeah, I think it was at 30 or 25 where they played.
I think it was 2010, so it was 30.
No, it was before we had that metal show because
it was.
Yes, because I remember their manager called me, asked me if I would go out and say something. You guys were there just to hang out and join me. And I remember telling her, hey, I got 2 friends with me. We're going to start doing a TV show together. I'd like to bring them out. We had not started TMS yet. So it would have been 07-ish around then.
Well, needless to say, we were never asked to do that again.
Why?
I don't know. Somebody threw something in the introduction about Florida girls like to take it in the ass. So
I lived down in Fort Lauderdale. It was me.
It wasn't me.
I was just getting the crowd pumped. I lived down there in Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale. I know.
Yeah, I didn't say you were wrong. I'm just saying.
That's where I cut my teeth with anal, is down in Fort Lauderdale. So I had to bring it up. I'm just saying.
I just wish somebody had a camera on Don and I's face when Jim said that in front of 10,000 people.
And Mike Piazza was there that time too with us.
Yeah.
I know the band. I know the manager. I know the people that run the venue. Hey, you got to bring these guys up. Let them come up with me. It's going to be great. And then Jim lets that go. And I'm like, holy shit.
And that was a special night for them because they shot the DVD that night. That's when they filmed the whole thing.
And you remember it was dark the whole time because they didn't have the lighting right. They had a lighting glitch. And the lights came down, but they never went on. There was like a lighting problem. The whole first 2 songs they played in the dark. And then when they put it out on DVD, they somehow lightened it up. But I remember there was a technical issue. And then remember we went in the back after we did it and the bike was there, the motorcycle. We were looking at the motorcycle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. That was
Where did we leave off here?
Okay, so my number 1 is going to be Victim of Changes, especially the live version. And even when you go see them in concert and waiting for Halford to hit that note and the place goes nuts. It's just phenomenal. The studio version is great too, but the live version of Victim of Changes. That's my
I don't know how I've left that song off my list, but I got to go. The number 1 Priest song, the Painkiller. It's just, for people who saw earlier the interview with KK, he really summed it up. I mean, it's so over the top, heavy. And when Priest ends with this song, there's just devastation all over the land. I mean, that song is so freaking heavy. There's no way to follow that song. You can't play Painkiller and then play Before the Dawn right after. I mean, that's it. Show's over, folks. You saw Painkiller, go home now. So that's my number 1.
How on earth can you not have the definitive Judas Priest song of all time on your list? Which we all know Jim was correct, and I will be correct.
Nostradamus?
Victim of Changes. The definitive Priest song ever created. The landmark Priest song. And yes, the Unleashed in the East version would be the version I defer to. Even though the studio version, which you rarely hear, is pretty cool. Victim of Changes is the all-time definitive Priest song. And speaking of that big note that Rob hits, I once asked him about that. I was like, it's got to kill you to know that you got to do that every night. Everyone's waiting for it. And he once told me, and this blew my mind, he said it's actually harder for him. You know the soft part in the song? He goes, changes come over your body, that part. He said that's actually harder for him to sing than going after that note, that big note. So that's an interesting thing from a vocal perspective. But Victim of Changes, that was the instant, like, that was the immediately when we were doing this, I'm like, well, there's the number one. Now what do I do for the other five? So there you go. That's the right answer.
No, right. But anyway, that's that. You're fired. Done. Yes, I'm fired this week.
Let's do this versus that.
Let's do it.
Oh no, wait, we got to do. We never get to the That Rocks pick, so we should do that real quick. We've missed that the last few weeks.
Yeah, we're an hour in, so let's figure out what we want to do here.
Well, let's do that real quick, and then we'll do this versus that, and we're done.
What about the metal, the death metal logo? Let's
do all three real quick.
All right, my pick for this week is a band out of Ireland called $1 Million Reload. Eddie, you know these guys?
Heard of them, never heard them though.
Yeah, they put 2 albums out. They put a live album out. They rebranded their name called, I think it's Conspiracy Theory. But I remember these guys, their first 2 records are great. Just classic 80s hard rock. If you like that type of music, kind of like Skid Row, kind of Guns N' Roses. Really cool band out of Ireland. Yeah, they're called Blackwater Conspiracy now. They rebranded their name.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But there's 2 records out, but this is their first one, A Sinner's Saint, $1 Million Reload. There's not too many bands out of Ireland besides the great Thin Lizzy and Mama's Boys and U2. So put $1 Million Reload in that too.
Good. I'm going to check that out in the break before the members thing. Mine is, so we talked a few weeks ago about our favorite side bands, and this was one of mine. Blaine from Nashville Pussy has had this band, 9 Pound Hammer, for many years. And as Jim pointed out, a lot of great songs like He Done Run Out of Worms.
The greatest title ever.
Yeah. And just great, funny, countrified, Kentucky cowpunk songs. This happens to be an album of covers, though, which is really interesting to hear these guys tackle Priest. They do Heading Out to the Highway on here. They do Thin Lizzy on here. They do Cheap Trick on here, and they even do Dr. Hook on here. So any band that could spread that wide out, they do the Ramones as well. It's just a great album. I love it. Like I said, one of my favorite side bands. 9 Pound Hammer, and it's called Rock and Roll Radio. And I got it on vinyl, of course.
So for me, I featured this earlier, but the reason I'm featuring it again is because of this, and because of this, which is all sorts of stuff. So the Dio documentary is finally coming out as a box set. I'm dropping all the cool stuff in it, but you can see there's all kinds of stuff in here. There's I'm dropping everything.
You drop something.
Get it together.
There's all kinds of stuff. There's a patch.
Or show us.
I'm trying it. There's a patch. There's a bracelet. There's looks like trading cards. There's I don't even know what this is. Coasters, Dio coasters. And hold on. There's this, which they handed out at the screening of the movie in LA. These are Dio tissues. And the reason why you need these is if you saw this movie, when there is a moment where you're going to get welled up. So everything's in here. And then there's a Blu-ray, a DVD. There's bonus stuff that wasn't in the original movie. It's all out in this new box set. It's coming out, I think, in like a week. I have an advance of it. And if you've not seen the Dio documentary, it's phenomenal. It's been on Showtime. Many have asked, hey, will it come out on DVD or Blu-ray? Because there's still people that maybe don't have cable TV or they don't have TV anymore or whatever. They want to own it physically. Well, now there's a bunch of different formats. What I just showed you is the deluxe box set version. I think it comes out next week or so. And also my annual event, one of the 2 annual events I host for the Dio Cancer Fund is coming up in November at Pins in Studio City. November 16th, we'll be bowling again. Go to diocancerfund.org to reserve your lane. All the money goes to the Cancer Fund. It's always a great, drunken, fun bowling night.
All right, and to get those eyes sharpened, it's death metal logo time. I'm gonna take it. Last week was an impossible one.
Ridiculous.
I understand that, and I got it sent to me by so many people. But this one's a lot easier. So let's pop it up there and see what Ed can do with this.
By the way, we have not gotten this into every episode, but we've done it every episode because sometimes we ran out of time. So sometimes for the members, they've seen this every time, but you can see sometimes we'll pull these out and put these alone on YouTube. Okay. Yeah. Clearly an H and an S at the start and the end. Is that right, Don?
Okay. 2 for 2.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I'll let it go.
Yeah. If Ed needs help, help him. But if he doesn't, let him try to work it out.
Hold on.
It's a one word. I'll give you that hint. And you got 2 letters already.
Is it like horrendous?
Very close.
Horrea? No. Horren? Horrendous? Like
horrendous.
That's horrendous?
You got it. Yep.
Look at Jim still trying to figure it out.
I knew it was U.S. at the end. I don't see the O though. Okay, I see the O now. Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, we a little bit more gettable, but yeah, great death metal band out of Virginia.
How is that name not taken? I'm surprised that name's not a band name. Horrendous.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's such a simple word, and it's perfect for a death metal band. But yeah, they got a new album, Ed. I know you'll be looking forward to listening to Ontological Mysterium when it comes out on Seasons of Mist Records any day now. But yeah, killer band.
Good job. Old intern, Katie, works for Seasons of the Mist.
That's right. Yep.
There you go.
We thank them. Most of the stuff they send me will work in this category.
They know better not to send it to me.
Yeah.
I got my kid until I have him play some death metal, like 6 Feet Under with Chris Barnes. They did the whole Back of Black album.
Yep.
From beginning to end, and it just like I would go listen to this. What is that? He's fascinated by it.
Does he like it?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it takes a little bit. He's like, "Oh, what's wrong with his voice?" Like, that's him.
I know that's killer. I love that he does that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to this versus that.
Wrapping it up with, of course, Priest, because again, in case you joined late, KK Downing was on with us. We flipped the script this week because we had KK on right at the top. So rewind or go to the top if you want to see that interview. But our this versus that is 2 back-to-back Priest classics: Defenders of the Faith versus Screaming for Vengeance. Who's starting?
I'll go first. I'm going to go with Scream for Vengeance. I was going track for track for this. A weak track maybe on Scream for Vengeance. The weakest track to me is Fever. But other than that, everything's good. Take These Chains is pretty good, not great, but the rest is great. To me, at the end of Defenders of Faith, it gets a little heavy duty, and Defenders of the Faith, so I'm giving the nudge to Scream for Vengeance.
Jim, I'm with you on the ending of Defenders of the Faith. It definitely kind of fizzles out. You know, the last 2 songs are kind of really just one song-ish, but everything before it is so good. Not a dull moment whatsoever. In fact, by the time you get to Heavy Duty and the title track, you're just, your mind's completely blown out. Screaming for Vengeance is the one that broke them in America, but for me, Free Will Burning, The Sentinel, of course, were in my top 6, and love everything else on there. So I'm going Defenders of the Faith.
This was pretty easy for me, and people are going to think I'm crazy. I never love Defenders. Defenders of the Faith, outside of a couple songs, Love Bites, title track, Sentinel. I never loved that record. And also sound wise, even though it's the same producer, I don't think it sounds nearly as good as Screaming for Vengeance. To me, Screaming for Vengeance, top to bottom, like I agree with what Jim said. Fever, Take These Chains. If I had to take a couple off, maybe. And those Take These Chains, they didn't even write. That was like a Bob Halligan song. But when you're talking about Bloodstone and you're talking about Devil's Child and Riding on the Wind and Hellion Electric Eye and the title track, I mean, just relentlessly amazing. Again, maybe my favorite Priest album of all of them. So Screaming was an easy pick for me between these two.
Well, there you go. What do we got here? SRT amplification.
That's funny. How about you guys submit your own graphics along with your picks?
I will have Andy double check them from now on.
That's funny.
Yeah.
People like the shenanigans. It's all
yeah,
right.
Of course. It doesn't,
Yeah.
I got no problem with it. Yeah, I mean, look, if you don't know the music, if Andy doesn't know it,
No, Andy knows it. It's Joe doesn't know it as well. I won't say he doesn't know it, but
okay.
But
all right. So let's wrap it up. We will we'll let you guys know about day, time, and all that for next week when we know. We don't know yet. As usual, keep an eye on the socials.
Yeah, there's all my socials right there. Come see me record my comedy special, No Sleep Till McSorley's, at McSorley's Ale House in New York City, September 24th. Tickets are free. brownpapertickets.com.
Sign up for the membership. You could click right below on the YouTube page. We do an extra 20 minutes to a half hour, whatever, after the show. You want to become a member, that'd be great. I think I'm going to start doing album reviews for the elite members. I don't know, whatever the fuck you call them. Tier 2. But check me and Don Jamieson out in Philadelphia, October 7th, World Cafe Live. October 7th, October 13th, up at the Mountaineer Casino in New Cumberland, West Virginia. All dates on my website, jimflorentine.com.
All right. So this weekend, Meadowlands Expo Center, Secaucus, New Jersey, the Inked Out Tattoo event. Friday and Saturday night, I'll be there hosting the music. Saturday is the Big Rock Night. Sebastian Bach, Stephen Piercy, Tammy Down, Phil Lewis, all-star band playing with Brent Woods, Brent Fitz, Todd Kearns. That's all going down Saturday. There's also music on Friday night, a band called Gray Days, and a band with Mario Barth, who runs the tattoo event. So Friday and Saturday, I'll be there hosting the music. Also, Power Trip coming up. I'll be doing my radio show there from backstage. You'll have a special coming soon. And October 13th, Graffiti Lounge in Tulsa, acoustic with John Karabi. That should be fun as well. So a lot of stuff going on.
And Joe just said the band Running Wild just got added to Power Trip Festival. So
the day Priest plays.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
awesome. And get you That Rocks t-shirts. The link is right in under the YouTube, under the page right here. We got 3X.
Is it? Where is it?
Merchmountain.com is where it is.
Yeah, but the link's right there. You just click on the link, it goes right to the page.
And hey, if you want more KK, he's going to be on my daily Sirius XM radio show tomorrow, starting at 3 Eastern, Faction Talk 103, or the Sirius XM app, Trunk Nation every day. And by the way, any day now, any minute, any day, I'm going to be announcing the 40th anniversary event for my 40th year in radio. All I've announced so far is it's going to be in Vegas in December, but there's going to be limited tickets available to the public. It's going to be a huge night. So keep a close eye on my socials and my radio show, because you guys will know first how to get in and how to get tickets and all that. And it's fitting because for my 25th year in radio, 15 years ago, Judas Priest played a private show for me. But I've also got two huge guests this year, a ton that's not going to be announced, but two that will be. And it all should be revealed like any day. So I'm excited to get the word out and have a big party in Vegas.
I still have the set list from that pre-set that played your party. They did like 6 songs. They did like 6 songs and street clothes.
Yeah. I don't remember how many songs they did, but I remember obviously them playing, and it was it was an amazing night, obviously, and the band Running Wild opened for them.
All right, we'll
right,
see
so
you guys next week. And our
if you're
members,
members, yeah, we'll
stay
see you in a
tuned. We'll
few.
be back in a couple minutes.